Hey, how's it going? I'm Jack Devine, and today we're going to talk about chord voicings, primarily overdriven chord voicings in the first position. My sons are 11 and 14, and they've been playing guitar for a couple of years, and they love hard rock, but they also study classical. So part of their practice is, obviously making sure that when they fret chords, they're fretting every note in the chord. That kind of thing. And if you're a beginner, I'm sure you've been working hard on all those things, and kudos to you for taking the time to actually get that together. But you may have noticed, like they did, that when they come down here and try to play their AC/DC songs, when they fret those chords, there's something wrong. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark in terms of it sounds kind of sour and off and gritchy. You know, their G chord sounds like this instead of this. To me the other day, and I was like, okay, good, time for you to learn some open position power chords. So I'm here to teach you guys the same thing. So if you already know the stuff, great, this isn't a lesson for you, but if you don't, stick around. I think you'll appreciate what you walk away with, okay? All right, first things first, let's talk about the G, okay? The G has 2/3 in it, okay? That means it has the B note on that string and this string. A lot of people, beginners, they play this chord. There's nothing wrong with that if you're in Creedence Clearwater or you're playing folky songs or bluegrass or something like that. That works just fine, okay? But when you start stacking up any amount of overdrive, you're going to end up with a third that deep in the voicing of the chord and that loud, that big, wide open B string. It's going to create an imbalance in terms of the harmonics within the chord, and it sounds. There's like a weird rubbing that takes place. So we eliminate the third in all of these voicings that I'm going to show you. So chief way to do that is to play a different note on the string that has the third on it. So we're going to come here with the ring finger to the D note on the B string. And we're going to throw our middle finger right where it was. But rather than playing with proper technique like a little rainbow, we're going to flatten it out. Kind of like we're giving somebody the bird. And we're going to flatten it out. And we're going to deliberately let it go onto the A string. But don't worry, it'll get out of the way of the D string and the G string. We're already getting the 1 and the 5 there. That's 1, 5. Now we're going to add a little insult to injury by getting the open G. And then last but not least, we're going to give the ring finger his day in chord. And that's just about bright enough for a power 5 in the tradition of AC/DC. If you want, every now and again they'll put down that pinky so that they can release it into a D chord. But they will often not play the third in the D chord too. Okay, so all right, so here we are: G, D, G, and D. 1 5 1 5 1 5. Ooh la la! That is so much more beefy than this. We don't want to hear any of that. No, thank you. Okay. So that's our G chord. On to the D. Now the D chord is really hip in that it's got the open A string, giving it some oomph in the low register. Okay, that's just 2 notes. That's the D with the 5 underneath it. All right, then we can start stacking the 5 again. So we'll have A, D, A. And then we can add the same note that we played in our G chord, same finger, same everything. And we're going to actually use the same technique where the underside of the ring finger mutes the high E string. Now you can do this if you want to stack another 5th up here. If you're Randy Rhoads, you can do this and make it a 9th chord, but that's not really a power chord. That sounds really cool and flying high again. But anyway, back to this, okay? Some people you see do this, okay? The bottom line is the F sharp note that normally we would fret here is no more. And the thumb comes over and looks like it might be actually fretting, but it's not. It's just there to stop my right hand when it comes down from making any noise. So at the very worst, if I hit the low E, it's just going to add a low percussive thud. All right. right underneath an already mighty sounding D chord. Okay, so open A, open D, fretted G string at the 2nd fret, and then the fretted B string at the 3rd fret. There's your D chord. It's nice, right? All right, next we'll come back with the A chord voicing. All right, if you haven't figured it out by now, all we're doing is removing the 3rd, okay? So in an A chord, that would be do, re, mi, right? It's gonna be a C sharp note. So what we wanna do is find the C sharp in our A major chord. No more, okay? So how do we do that? Well, you can fret it like this. I don't suggest that. I suggest you just get Cro-Magnon and just use the 1 finger right here. But focus your energy towards the tip of your finger. And let the underside of your finger come out right here. Okay, hopefully you're not pulling back. You're kind of rotating forward a little bit. And so it's dead. The other thing is with your right hand, get away from the guitar after you hit the. Don't strum through. Okay? You don't want to also, thumb's going to drape over the top. Again, we get the low thud if we hit the low E string. Okay, you got to figure out how to get that A chord happening. If you just can't get it together, you can always do the Uncle Pete, which would be, again, stacking up the Pete Townsend approved 5 and 1. Very bright, okay? This is going to be the A equivalent of this. Okay? All right, so that's your A chord. We're ready to talk about the big dog. The king of Kerrang, the low E. How do we get him to sound right? Well, first things first, let's eliminate this G sharp, okay? We've worked so hard, but if you leave it off altogether, you're gonna end up with E minor. That's not good. If you fret it, you get that sound, and that's not really what we're looking for. So what we want to do is one of 2 things. 1, put the index finger right on top of the G string, 1st fret, but don't fret it down, okay? Just, all right? And hopefully the underside of the ring finger can do its magic as well. And as you're fretting the B and E note, you'll get 1, 5, 1, dead string. And then with enough of an arc from your index finger, you still can sound out the B and E strings underneath it. If you can't seem to get that to happen, you can fret the index finger on the first 2, on the 2nd fret of the A and D string. And then put your pinky here with a high arch. At that point, you've deaded the 3rd, but you are creating a unison of 2 Bs right next to one another, and that can cause some odd rubbing if the guitar isn't perfectly in tune. Just if you're putting any amount of pressure on that pinky, you're gonna hear two. It's gonna sound like instead of that. So I caution students from cheating like this unless they're playing. Like that kind of thing where they got to get back and forth from an E chord to a B chord very quickly. That's a handy voicing to have. Okay, so that's an E chord. So that's very handy, but this is what I'm really here to teach you, okay? Get this index finger on top of the G string, but don't fret it. So that's going to cover it for like the main chords that we play in open position, your G, your D, your A, and your E. But there's still a few outliers that you got to get under your belt. Now this is the fun stuff. There's a B chord, an F chord, and a C chord. All right, so let's talk about those voicings. Now the B chord is going to be largely a version of the A chord brought up with the index finger. Okay, but I'm going to show you, this was the A chord. We're going to bring it up and fret here with the B note on the A string, 2nd fret. But I'm going to encourage you to try it with the pinky. Okay, the pinky is a smaller pad, and it naturally will be lifting up on the B string, making it harder to sound the note we're trying to avoid. This fingering will make it so much easier for you to have the accidental third in the top of the voice, which is what we're trying to get away from. That's what we want. Now the pinky's pad is small enough, and you can see it kind of lifting up there, right? Plus you're also in metal position already. So you've got... That sounds great to me. Versus this, very easy to get that E flat in there. So be careful, kids. Try it with the pinky, okay? Now the F chord is a little bit more ambitious in that it's going to ask of you to use your thumb. My voicing is that you put your thumb here and just actually let it hit the note. Now you just want to practice. I have a lesson on how to get your thumb happening. Just try going into what I call thumb fighting mode, and then just hang it there. Okay? Now that should leave your arm, your arm is going to be doing all the work, right? You don't have to press with your thumb. Just hook your thumb there. And now let your ring finger go to the C note on the A string, and the pinky is going to play the octave. So you're going to end up with 1, 5, 1. What is inherently going to happen is you're going to feel your index finger want to fret the C and the F notes, and that's the 5 and the 1 of the chord, and that's all great. The only thing we're trying to really deal with, we need to solve for the G string. So fortunately, the underside of the pinky usually handles that, and if not, you can always just do the same trick you did on your E chord, where you're just laying the finger on top of the G string to deaden it. So now we've got five notes, no third. If you want a slightly darker voicing, you can just stop at the pinky. Very, very easy to go all night long in F like that, as opposed to like this. This is begging for some strain in these tendons. This is tough, especially if you're slung down low. It can be really, really quite a challenge, okay? So try getting the thumb thing together, and that'll also double as your voicings for F sharp, G, G sharp, and then once you get up there, you've got A at your. I use this all night long. The thumb over is great. That's a great technique, but that's another lesson, okay? So there's your F voicing. Now, last but not least is the C, which is kind of the crown jewel. This is a tough one to solve for. Much like the G chord, it has 2/3 in its voicing. We're taught all our lives to play a C chord like this. So there's a third on the D string and an octave of that third as the highest voice in the highest note in the chord. And we want to eliminate 2 of those 5 notes, leaving just the 1, the 5, the open G string, and the octave of the 1 at the 1st fret B string. Now what we're really looking for here is a nice, bright, open Kerrang. We can put the 5 down if we want with our pinky, or get rid of it, which is what I'm going to encourage you to do. This is kind of the octave 5 octave voicing right here. And I see this a lot in that Billy Gibbons technique in Sharp Dressed Man. That's it. Sounds awesome. All right, so that's how you can get a power 5 C chord without doing this, which sounds much darker than this. All right, so 1st fret B string, open G, and the C in the basement with the D string being muted by the underside of the ring finger and maybe this one to some degree. Now if you want, like I said, you can add the high five. And if you really are getting crazy, you can throw the middle finger up here onto the G and get the 5 in the basement. Great for the last chord of a song if you want to end with some serious muscle. So hopefully this has been helpful for players that are wondering why their open position power chords are sounding less sonorous, okay? This is a nice way of getting a smooth stacked 1-5-1 sound. Get rid of those thirds, okay? Peace, stay happy, stay healthy, stay in tune. Take care.